Meredith Shaw, who will be speaking to us. She's the executive director of the Topsfield Tri-Town Council. And it looks like we have Kendra joining us, and of course, Martha and Kathleen Hunt. So let's get started. The approval of the March minutes. So I had sent those out earlier, and then I sent them again just in case people didn't have a chance to look at them. So could we first have a motion, and then we can have any discussion?
Move to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who said that? Kim, okay. I usually do this. I just relax. Usually Debbie's taking the minutes and I don't write anything down. So I have to remember to write this down or else I'm going to bother Dick again for the video. Okay, is there any discussion, any changes on the minutes? Okay, so we'll move to a roll call. Kim?
Here. Aye.
Aye. Alex?
Aye. Excuse me. Aye.
Zilly?
Aye.
Janet? Okay, I can see you said aye. You're on mute. So.
Unmute me. Okay.
Okay. Sarah? Okay,
abstain because I left early.
Okay. And Rosalie? Rosalie, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. What was your vote on the minutes?
Aye.
Okay. And Lynn is aye. So it passes with one abstention. Okay, great. So our next item is the cultural arts presentation. So just as quick background to anyone who is listening, our goal in having speakers come in and discussing the cultural arts and events in town is to help to connect groups together and to help encourage new events, expanded events, and then to market these where possible. And we'll be getting to that in a minute with Sarah and the website to help make these events known and to kind of brand the town as a place where we have great recreation, historical sites, family fun. So we've been bringing speakers in to talk about their organizations to give us a better sense of what they're offering. And I know Meredith was kind enough to come tonight to talk about the TTC and all the events that they provide. So with that, Meredith, welcome, and I'll turn things over to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Lynn, is it possible to share my screen? I have some visuals to.
Sure. You should be able to. We just tested it with Sarah, so feel free.
Oh, perfect. All right. There. Oh, I always hit the share button when I mean the present button. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to your meeting to come and talk about Tri-Town Council. I see a lot of familiar faces and familiar names, as well as some new faces and names to me. But I'm Meredith Shaw. I'm the executive director of Tri-Town Council. I've been with Tri-Town Council for, gosh, I think almost 9 years now. I started out as a volunteer, and I like to joke around with my colleagues that I just stuck around and they gave me a job, which I'm very happy about. But we've been around since 1968, so we're in our 5th decade and moving. And just to give you sort of set some context, and I know for some of you this is probably going to sound very familiar, but Tri-Town Council, our vision, we're trying to build a cathedral. Our vision for our community is one where all of our young people have what they need to grow into healthy, thriving adults. And what drives our vision is our mission of promoting health and well-being, promoting social and emotional wellness, and preventing and reducing risk behaviors. So how we do our work is based in 3 grounding frameworks, and I will just touch very briefly on them. The first one is the developmental assets, and essentially what this framework is it identifies what the foundational building blocks are for healthy development, and they organize them into some categories: external things that kids get from their communities, from their families, from the world around them, and then internal assets that young people grow and develop within themselves, and they're organized into different categories. The powerful aspect of this model and why we use it as a lens in which to do our work is that there's a direct correlation between the number of assets youth report having and protective factors. So the more assets kids report having, the more likely they are to succeed in school, whatever that definition is, to have healthy relationships, to be able to make healthy decisions, and they're less likely to engage in risk behaviors. The assets are built within the context of developmental relationships, and these are essentially caring relationships that young people have with others in their lives, and they're close connections that help young people develop their sense of self, develop skills, develop abilities, develop interests, expand their horizons, and give young people or help young people define a sense of purpose and meaning for themselves. So this framework identifies 5 elements of what this developmental relationship is, and then 5 specific actions that people can take in engaging in these relationships with young people and building assets, again, providing that foundation for healthy development. And then our third framework or third lens in which we view all of our work is through the science of the positive. And this framework is based on this core tenet that the positive is real, it's measurable, it's prevalent, and it's certainly worth growing. The way that we use the science of the positive, the way that we shine the light on what's positive in our community, because there are many ways that you can use it, we focus this framework on our substance use prevention work. And what we know from data collection is that there are some significant misperceptions around risk behaviors among youth and among adults who care about youth. And what we find is that while there is deep concern about substance use rates among young people, if you flip that concern around, and instead of looking at use rates, you look at non-use rates, we find that most kids are making healthy decisions. Most kids are not using substances, but that's not what we often talk about or what we often hear. So part of our coalition work is to correct those misperceptions, hold the concern about substance use among our young people, and support education and awareness and resources. But also by promoting those positive norms, we're closing that gap in that misperception, because we know misperceptions about substance use can be a risk factor. So if you close that misperception, you improve health and safety for young people and for a community. And this is how we express the science of the positive through our positive community norms campaigns. And I just wanted to share these with you briefly because these were developed by some Masconomic graphic design students last year. So again, promoting that healthy norm that most kids are, or more than, are not using versus using. So I gave Lynn an infographic, I guess is what you call it, that sort of captures, what we do as an organization and how we work toward our mission and create that cathedral, that vision that we have for our community. But this, all of these items that you see on this infographic are primarily centered, again, around healthy development, substance use prevention and reduction, and again, leading to that vision of our community. So a little bit about what we do, and this is primarily, I'm going to show you this in pictures, and with each slide that I show you with the program and some photographs, there is that asset connection, because again, everything that we're doing is in an effort to build young people's assets to strengthen that foundation for healthy decision making. So these pictures are a collection over the last couple of years. And, obviously our programs look a little different, quite a bit different this year. But we've been chugging away this year. It's been a crazy year for all of us in many different ways. But our programs are still going. They just look different. So we have our after school enrichment programs in the Boxford and Topsfield schools. They were virtual this year. We don't typically run in-person programs in Middleton schools because they have their own after-school program. But with the virtual environment, we were able to engage a lot of Middleton students this year. We have supplemental classes that we offer in our building in Topsfield. This was a teen who was very interested in bath products and creating natural bath products. So she approached us and she wanted to do a class for kids. So we did a couple classes for young people. They learned how to make soap bubble bars and they learned how to make bath bombs, things you drop in the tub that fizz and are really fun and kids love them. We also run some summer programs and camps where we engage our young people as leaders as well as elementary students as participants. We have a ski program that we run in Boxford to build that constructive use of time asset. And we're looking to expand that into the other schools as well. Topsfield does have its own ski program that's run by a group of parents. And our plans were actually to engage in some dialogue for how Tri-Town Council could support the Topsfield program as well as growing into the Middleton schools as well. We have a Youth Action Advisory Board. This is a group of high school students. They all are Masco students currently, and it's building that empowerment asset for our young people. And they are the youth voice of the coalition. So they actively work on promoting healthy norms, promoting healthy decision-making. They help us with the data that we collect and sort of identifying what they feel is important to communicate. And I'll share a little bit more about that later. But we have 21 high school students that we work with, and we meet virtually every other week. So they're working on some different initiatives this year centered around community service, middle school and high school outreach, as well as prevention education. We run mentoring programs in all of our towns where we pair high school students with elementary age students, 5th and 6th grade. So this is our girls program and this is our boys program. And I'm actually happy to report that these pictures are hot off the presses from Saturday night. We spent the year with our boys, as with our girls, doing Zoom meetings, but we were able to get this group together on Saturday for some pizza and some basketball and some Pictionary. So thrilled to be able to share those photos with you. We also sponsor healthy social opportunities for young people. So open gym nights at Masco. We do a 6th grade Welcome to Masco Fun Night in a typical year where we bring all of our Tri-Town 6th graders together and, give them an opportunity to make some connections, to get a little bit more familiar with the school that they'll be going to in the fall. And the beauty of this night is that our youth leaders, who you see in the turquoise t-shirts, help us plan the evening. We provide the structure, but the young people, middle school and high school students, middle school and high school youth, plan the activities and then staff the activities. And so we also have a photo voice program. So this is a program that we run every couple of years where students work with a photographer in town, and it revolves around a theme. So they learn the art and science of photography, but then they also use their voice to make a statement about whatever the theme is. So for this particular project, the theme was what matters to me. So we had hunger, we had mental health, we had nature and environment from the students. That is my timer. So I gave myself 10 minutes. So I will just go through this very quickly because I could just, go all night. That's all that we do. I'll just scroll through these very quickly. Again, other youth programs that we do to, again, build those assets. And then we usually cap off our program year with the all-night grad party. This is what it looked like last year with the fabulous rolling rally. And doesn't look like it's going to be able to happen this year, but we will find a way to celebrate our class of 2021. And this is just an example of some of the programs that we offered this year, virtually having to innovate like all of us did, where, finding new partnerships, finding different ways to share information, to engage kids. Our youth leaders helped us with some of these programs as well. So volunteer opportunities, ways to manage stress and anxiety, as well as creative outlets. These are just some of our virtual programs, offering kids a sense of purpose and some community service. We also have sponsored programs that we fiscally sponsor and provide administrative support. So this is the Tri-Town Rock Band, and I'm happy to share a video that you can watch later of their performance. It's very joyful, partnering high school, typically, musicians and mentors with young people with varying abilities that want to explore their musicality. And that's run by Andrea Monti, who's the retired Boxford band director, and she's amazing. We also have Disability Awareness Starts Here. It's one of our sponsored programs, Dash, that's in all the schools, as well as Sponsor a Child, which supports young children in need during the holidays. And then these are some of the other ways that we support the community, especially in times of COVID, knowing that a lot of local families were struggling. We did a gift card collection. We do holiday food bags every year with our partner at Masco, Joan Murphy, who's pictured there, as well as with the Christian Angel Smile Foundation, another collaborating partner. We started the Community Assistance Program with our Masco partners this year, again, to support local families in need, as well as families that might have to quarantine due to COVID and they don't have that support network of friends and family that could help them with groceries or pharmacy runs and things like that while they're quarantining. So we had a cadre of volunteers that were willing to support the families in that way. And these are some cheer bags that families had left on their doorstep just to bring a smile to their face during a very difficult time. We also offer Project Safety Net, which is a 24/7 helpline that's available to anyone in the community, youth and adults, and it's staffed by a local counselor. If you are a young person, or parent or guardian or young person needs to get some resources or talk something through, there's someone on the other end of the line. Then our coalition is a group of our sectors of our community that focus and meet regularly and focus on substance use prevention and reduction. And then we collect our data and we share it with the community in a community conversation that happens about every 18 months. So this was right before the world shut down in January 2020, and our YAB board were the youth that presented the data to the community with the support of our coalition coordinator, who's pictured there as well. We also do a lot of community education, supporting parents and guardians in healthy development and teen trends and ages and stages. So that's a little bit about Tri-Town Council. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have about our work.
Thank you so much, Meredith. This obviously you provide an incredible level of support to the youth in town. The number of programs and activities, it's so diverse. It's like something for everybody. I did notice a couple of tie-ins for sure, possibly with our new rec director, with the open gym nights and the summer programs, and things that are cultural, more art related, the photo voice, the youth artisan fair, the inclusive rock band. So there were some good tie-ins there. Any particular questions for Meredith from the group? Well, that means you did a good job doing an overview, Meredith. Thank you so much.
You guys do so much. I want to also just alert you guys to starting next week, pay attention out of Masco. There's going to be something called Small Town Hero Awards. And I'm not telling you anything, but I'm just letting you know that you might want to pay attention because you might see someone familiar on there from TTC.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Meredith.
Yeah, thank you. It was nice to see all of you and to meet some of you. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
Bye, Meredith.
So our next item is a downtown update from our own Kevin Hartunian.
Hi, everybody. Meredith did a great job. I don't know if she's still, thank you. If she is, well, either way, great work. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so a lot going on right now. Every time we meet every month, there's a lot of irons and fire. Some things start moving forward, some things faster than others, but there's more than what I'm going to give you an update on happening with sort of a quick hit on the recent things. So the highway garage. We talked about the disposition of the building and the rezoning needed to really explore all options on that space. The planning board took it up at their March 30th meeting, and we were successful in receiving approval for a subdivision between the fire station part of the lot and the former highway garage. And then later in the meeting, the planning board approved an article that would rezone that parcel and two adjacent parcels, including the box top and a vacant piece of land next to it, or a piece of land next to it with trees on it. I shouldn't say it's vacant. Those were also tasked to be in the warrant for rezoning into the business downtown district, which is exciting. So thank you to Martha and the rest of the planning board for hearing us and your thoughtfulness in the process. And onward and upward till May 8th, May 8th meeting, town meeting, where we'll hopefully have some good support and get those articles passed.
Kevin, can I just stress that part to the ECDC? As much as everybody can, reach out to everybody that you know to come to town meeting to approve that, because if it's not approved, we can't have any discussion about what might happen to the garage. That opportunity is closed. So it's really important for people to turn out. Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah. So and just big thank you to this team. I mean, I know you folks help push information out with the public information meeting. Your support means so much. It's tremendous, and it helps get your sphere of influence for a lot of people, and you being able to pass along information is really helpful. So thank you. Wayfinding signage. So huge thank you to Janet for doing the legwork and teeing that up for us. We went to contract 2 weeks ago with a designer, Omloop, who works closely with Essex Heritage. I actually worked with Brian, who's the principal of the firm, on some of their kiosk work. They located one in Beverly a few years ago, and was able to work with Brian, very talented man. And so he's hit the ground running. We've already had a couple of calls regarding that. I know it's an agenda item later on, so I'll leave the rest for that part of the discussion, but that's moving. VHB downtown design.
Kevin, I'm sorry,
yes.
can I just ask you just to go back for a second? We had talked before about advertising the highway garage and the opportunities and how we would get word out to get people to come. We had talked about different options.
Sure.
Any idea from your team yet about how we do that?
Yeah, so we're in a good place right now where I think there's a lot of buzz around it. The buzz we've got a number of weeks left before town meeting, so we want to make sure we keep that going. There's a few different ways we could do that. One might be through even an op-ed in the newspaper that we might put out, or just reminding people of the article. I think, I know Wendell Waters is looking to do some write-ups about articles that are going to be there, and I'm planning to sort of emphasize that one so we can draw some positive attention to it. And in that, I'll emphasize, we want to make sure the community comes, provides their feedback at town meeting, and hopefully get a positive result. So those are a couple places. I mean, we've purposely not leveraged the unofficial Facebook page for the town. So I don't know if through the ECDC and members here, if there's messaging we want to put out there as we get closer to the meeting, reminding people of this particular article and town meeting. I'm sure there will be discussions on that page at some point. That might be the place where we sort of pitch in a reminder to people there if possible. But yeah, those are some of the low-hanging fruit, I guess you could say, when it comes to sort of reminding people of that article and informing them. Oh, and we'll also have the moderator forum as well. So we'll be able to, people who participate at that, we'll get a chance to really hear the details behind that as well, so they can be informed when they take up their vote at town meeting.
Is there going to be someone there in particular to address that if questions come up? Because Steve Whalen's great and he'll be able to, kind of manage that whole forum, but he's not going to know the details on every article.
So I've talked with Steve. We're kind of tag teaming it. So I'll be there present, and I'll plan to speak specifically on the few that are that are a little outside the norm, not budget related. We'll field questions on that, but I'll probably anticipate maybe Steve talking for a few seconds and me just kind of giving people an idea of what it is and then answer the questions associated with it. But yes, I'll be present, so questions can be answered through me.
Excuse me, when is this forum? When is the moderators forum?
I think we're moving it now. It was originally April 27th, but since the 40B is now going before.
Well, that's what I was going to.
Yeah, so last night we talked about that briefly. Kevin was looking to see with Steve if there was another date that we could set up.
And I have a call and a message out to Steve. We haven't been able to connect since last night, but we'll square that off. Either we'll go earlier in the evening before the ZBA or push it to a different date, likely push it to a different day. It'll be a busy week.
I have a couple questions about town meeting. What article number will the highway garage, or I guess it'll be multiple items on the warrant? How late in the day are they?
At the end, so there's 40 articles, and these are, I think, 30,
mid-30s,
5 and 36 maybe.
Okay. And
roughly.
Then the other question I had is, I know sometimes with certain articles, people make presentations at town meeting. Will there be a presentation made about this?
So there was a FinCom meeting last night that we were going to take up 4 articles, which they, when we went to print, they hadn't been able to make a recommendation because planning board hadn't met. They met after their last meeting where they approved everything, but 36 of the 40 articles. The last night there was a meeting that unfortunately I wasn't able to make because we had a select board meeting where I think the intent was to take up those last 4 articles. Unfortunately, via text, I was informed that they did not take those up last night for a vote. So it'll probably come down to right before the meeting itself, the joint meeting on Thursday before the Saturday meeting, where they will have to vote it favorably or unfavorably.
Kevin, could I ask, Martha had her hand up from the planning perspective. I don't know if she was planning on saying something at the meeting to present that or work with FinCom.
The way it works is that the FinCom will make a recommendation either to accept it or not accept it, depending on what their vote is. But by law, the planning board has to make a report to town meeting on any zoning article. And we're in favor of this. It was a unanimous vote of the planning board. So hopefully the FinCom will vote to recommend positive action. And then Josh Round is going to represent the planning board for this because he was on the original downtown revitalization committee. And we thought that because he's been involved right from the beginning, that he would be a good person to do that. And then, of course, the rest of the board will be there too, so that if there are any questions that Josh can't answer, we tend to pop up and say, okay, and there's also this. So there will be at least the FinCom and the planning board talking about, at least hopefully the FinCom, but certainly the planning board for positive action.
And Martha, I'd say you could probably anticipate though, based on the feedback I've heard so far, I think on 2 zoning ones, they'll probably, because they haven't voted on it yet, the FinCom, they'll certainly probably lean on the planning board representative to provide a lot of the insight. That's my guess. I don't want to speak for the FinCom, but it's kind of based on the fact they didn't take it up. I'm assuming they probably will be leaning on the planning board a little.
No one has been in touch from the FinCom. Usually we have a liaison, who gets in touch to say, what have you done? But I haven't heard from anyone yet. But typically when it comes to zoning articles, unless there's a major objection, they follow the recommendation, on the planning board. So hopefully that will happen. But do know this is a zoning article, so it needs a 2/3 majority to pass. This is not a simple majority. It's a 2/3. It's a supermajority vote. So it's really important that the people who attend town meeting are in favor of this.
That'll be key for the ECDC. Janet, you're on mute.
I mean, it sounds good to do the paper and the forum, but I don't think a lot of people have the paper anymore. And I mean, I think it would be good to get it onto that Residents of Topsfield site. I'm not a part of it. I've never been on it, but if there's like 1,000 people on it, that's one way to get it out there. Even though you might have people with little objections and their antenna goes up, but you'll get attendance, I think. More people will hear of it.
Have you considered doing a mailing? You know, like we get mailing when they're flushing our hydrants. Can you do something like that?
So we mail out the warrant to everybody. That we're actually picking up from the jail tomorrow. They do our printing, and then we'll be distributing them by the end of the week. People should get them by Friday and Saturday, Monday at the latest. And we're going to put out electronic boards down in the downtown, likely in the coming weeks, that just say town meeting May 8th. I would pause to put anything out or separately than what we traditionally do.
Why?
I just consistency. I don't want to sort of favor one or not. I think I don't want to put undue pressure on one or have people see it in a different light. I think it can be brought up outside the town differently in my mind. I mean, I can talk to the media and I will talk to Wendell and say, Wendell, I'd really like to do a story on this particular one and just remind people, just say she's all about the garage, so I'm sure it wouldn't be an issue. But a mailing specifically on that one could undermine some of the other ones, favoritism, that type of thing. And it's costly too, to send a separate mailer, time and hard cost to put it out to all residents. So, those are a couple of factors. I'd probably pause to not do it that way in this particular item. But yeah, I mean, that's a great idea though, Kim. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has any other suggestions that we want to kind of flush through tonight.
Has the FinCom letter been produced yet?
Yes.
It's already gone to press?
It went to print.
With the FinCom letter report, the thing that usually comes with the warrant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it all went to print.
Okay. That's too bad, because people do read that.
Yeah, does it mention it at all in that FinCom? No, because they didn't take it.
I bet it does. I am trying to remember now because it's over 2 weeks since we last saw it, but that's a big item. They tended to touch on the big items, but I can't say for sure. While we're talking, I can pull it up and see if it's in there.
Yeah, but if they haven't voted, if they haven't voted on it, they probably won't say much about it.
Yeah, they won't say much.
But it is an opportunity. Maybe it's an opportunity for an ECDC little letter that goes in with the warrant and goes out with the warrant.
I'm tending to lean towards what Kevin's saying relative to showing any particular favoritism. If we let the ECDC put something in about those particular warrants, other people might get upset that, like, for instance, Copper Mine. That
you don't have to do it just the warrant. What you can do is a report of what has been accomplished with downtown revitalization over the past year. And that a piece of it, of course, you talk about the lampposts and the flowers and the Topsfield Community Partnership, and there can be a whole package, and then reference to the warrant article, as a piece of it all. Just a thought.
Can I ask Sarah and Zilly? They're two of our Facebook specialists. What's your reaction to putting it out on Facebook and starting a dialogue there to get people to be aware of the issue and to come to the meeting and to answer any questions? You guys are both on mute. Oh, there you go. Okay. Thanks.
Go ahead, Zilly.
You're letting me go ahead? I was going to let you go ahead.
No, you
really, I've been Facebook has become a little treacherous in some regards for me. So I'm a little more wary of it for other reasons. So I have to try to think of it in a different lens with this topic, because I do think it's a avenue for getting a buzz going, and it's even more that right now because we're not bumping into each other and in downtown.
Yeah, there's no natural conversation, and you
Right.
always need a little bit of a dialogue. What do
And
they mean by
that.
that? What, you know,
Right.
what are people saying? The
Right.
interaction I like on Facebook. I know that is a little uncomfortable for you, Zilly, now in the campaign. You know, you kind of have to think about what you're posting and how people are reacting to everything. But Sarah's not running for anything.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably okay. You know, the bigger Facebook page for the town has a lot of riffraff, outsider meddling.
Right.
But you know, the new one we've started has almost 800 people that, you know, we did a pretty good checks to make sure they're actual residents.
Yeah.
And there have been no behavior problems on the new ones. So I think that people can have respectful conversation. And I do think it is important to, you know, get awareness out there that, you know, town meeting is safe. It's happening. My kids are yelling in the background right now.
We don't hear them that much.
Okay, good. But yeah, and you know, there are a lot of parents. Saturday morning is a really hard time for parents. I mean, I coach. You know, I've got like a bunch of kids depending on me, and a lot of us are in that same position. So I think it's important to get the word out that you know, for parents who don't have conflicts with their kids in the mornings, like, you know, it's important to show up if you hear about this. So.
And it's probably, would you say, like around 11:30 that we're going to get to, or later, 11:30 or 12. You just wouldn't want them to miss it.
One of the big things we did.
What did you say, Sarah?
It starts at 8:30?
No, 10.
Oh, it starts at 10?
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Last year we started early because it was late June, and we didn't want people to fry. And then this year it's early May, so we kind of said, well, maybe we can warm people up with some beautiful May sun, hopefully.
Okay.
So one thing too, the last year's sort of big controversial. This one hasn't really seemed to gain any traction yet. I'm anticipating maybe Coppermine will be one. There's an article likely coming out on that in the newspaper, and then that gets forwarded onto the Facebook page, and people have a conversation. So again, I think when we get something in the paper, it will end up on the Facebook page, and maybe that's how it gets there. You know, if somebody posts it or, you know, whatever, and then there's some positive dialogue coming out of it, hopefully. Last year, when we had the big controversial one, was the reorganization of the highway, water, parks, and cemetery. And so we spent a lot of time with the commissioners talking about who would speak at the meeting, because they were 9-0 in favor of the transition. And I think, you know, one thing we should probably be conscious of is, you know, making sure people who want to speak on the topic are welcomed or encouraged to do so. So I don't know if someone from the ECDC wants to, you know, be a representative, or members of the ECDC want to be able and willing to get to the microphone. Last year as well, John Spencer spoke about the reorganization specifically, and he was prepared to talk about what, from an operational standpoint, his thoughts on that. So, and I think there was a counterpoint by, you know, Mr. Gann had a different perspective that he shared as well. So the moderator allowed two perspectives from town government side, and then obviously opened up to the general public for their opportunity to participate as well. So just something to think about. If anyone needs information on the facts on this, if someone's excited to speak or would like to speak, and they would like to have some additional, you know, factual based information that they could share, let me know. And you can either represent the ECDC if the ECDC wants to come together on an opinion or a letter that someone wants to read, or as an individual, as a member of the town. Either way, I think it'd be really great to get people who want to speak and support it to do so.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Kevin. Just looking at the time frame, the town meeting is in 3.5 weeks. So if we want to get an article in the paper, we have to kind of move quickly. And then I think that was a great recommendation to take that article and put that on Facebook because it answers a lot of the questions. So instead of having to write your own little article on Facebook, you can just reference that. But for us to get it in the paper, we have to write it pretty quickly to give enough time to have some dialogue. So you do that tonight? No, we're off.
Yeah, we can do it. Whatever it takes.
And then we could have some dialogue if anyone from the ECDC would like to talk at town meeting on this and what we might do. But I think that's a good idea, similar to what was done for the reorganization, to just spend a few minutes talking about that for anyone who might not know, and to get the dialogue going. All right. So, sorry, I didn't want to spend too much time. It's already 7:15, but that was some good discussion because it's really critical. As Martha said, this is a super majority. It's 2/3. So if you get people who turn out who are not for it, this isn't moving forward.
And I just one last thought, Lynn, if I could, is I'll talk with Che, the chair of the FinCom, JLL, about how they're going to present this article, because they will present. There's two, right? There's the rezoning and then the disposition. And the disposition's obviously critical as well, because if it's rezoned and we can't do anything from a commercial standpoint, that option's off the table. It limits what we can do with the property. So again, I need to get with Che. We haven't since last night's meeting to understand sort of what he needs. He did text me saying maybe I can provide sort of a write-up of each of those articles that they didn't
I do think, to Martha's point, it's really key to have the planning group, because I think that's their role anyway, but to have them speak to it, because they're the ones who initially approved it, and that's their, they're in their lane talking about that.
Well, we have to. I mean, even if we didn't like it, we would have to do something at town meeting. I think it's really important that as we talk about this, that it be made clear that we don't know what would go in there, that is what the disposition is, that what we know is that for anything to happen, the rezoning has to take place. And when people say, well, what could go in there? You need to provide the laundry list, maybe a restaurant, maybe housing, maybe office space. That is, this would all be possible if this becomes part of the business village. So there is, there's some buzz around that, it's going to be a tap room and a bar. And, we need to make sure that people understand that is not the only thing that it could be, but rather that there are many, many different possibilities, and that it will depend on who responds to the RFP with what proposal. Who's going to be the risk taker to go in there and to develop it according to the business village zoning standards, because people need to be reassured that it may not, that we don't know what it's going to be.
Right, that's a good point.
And I think so. Martha, the dispositions, that one wasn't one that the planning board took up. Do you anticipate there being a place for planning board to speak on that? And I don't have a stake in it or opinion. I just was curious what your thoughts are.
Well, we don't, we're not required to speak on it. Now, Josh might want to speak to that when it comes up. Because after all, he does a lot of this sort of work in his own, career, in his own business. But I think it's important. The disposition one is the one that I think is going to be a problem. Maybe that everyone's asking the people of Topsfield to trust the selectman and the town administrator to make the right decision when responses come in. And we already know that there are people out there who would prefer to see it as a community center, or who would like to see it as a teen center. That there have been all of those ideas floating around. that the town would own it and manage it. Well, of course, what we're trying to do is to bring in new business, and other people say that, but I think it's going to be rather tricky at town meeting. It depends on who comes. I know in the old days, there would be people lined up at the microphone demanding, answers to, all right, what would you accept? What would you refuse? That kind of thing. And I see Kim is nodding, Janet's nodding, that, when people get excited about something, it can get kind of out of hand. So I think the best thing is just to really focus on, there are all of these different possibilities.
And having Josh speak to that, he's very measured. And I think he would be effective actually in discussing that.
Yeah, I can ask him if he would like to make some comments. Other members of the planning board might want to as well. I'm not sure about that. But this is the thing that I'm a little concerned about as to how town meeting will respond to kind of an open-ended permission, to do something. I'm almost concerned about those things at town meeting.
Okay, great. Janet, were you going to say something? No? Okay. All right, Kevin, just moving along.
Sure. So VHB, met with Jeffrey a week and a half ago. We're moving forward with design work at the entrance into the downtown and historic district. And we're actually with Omloop, our designer for the signage. They're going to start collaborating where, from a design standpoint, we can actually insert, the sign into the design from VHB if timing allows, which we kind of need, so you can actually see what the sign will look like as you enter into there. The only holdup right now with that is that I have tried so many ways, everything less showing up in New Hampshire at his other property or at his house, the owner of the shopping plaza. I actually spoke to his lawyer for about 20, 30 minutes the other day, which was good. It was encouraging. He was going to help me try to get a meeting with the owner of the shopping center. I've tried again, have not heard. And so one of the design components that we were working on was in front of the shopping center and actually possibly onto the property itself. And I don't feel comfortable moving forward with billable hours until I have a conversation with the owner of the property. So we're working on the other component of the design. He's also working on fine tuning the garage portion as well, so we can move forward. I would mention though that he's given me some ideas. One thing that for the downtown is, and Sarah, you've talked about this, I think a year ago when we sat down about downtown, the islands, raised beds that are in front of the country farm and the T-Hop, as well as the former Santander. I've talked with Gary Wilds and I said, let's just get those really ugly plants, the growth that's in there now, just clean it out. And we could use, if we wanted to start moving forward with anything on that from a planting standpoint, we can use sort of as VHB refers to it, the kit of parts, the different options that can kind of complement each other to do something there if we wanted to. We can talk more offline about that if we wanted to, but just for way of update, it kind of plays into the design. We're going to clear that space off and then hopefully be able to then move forward with doing something. And even before VHB submits the final version, we can probably look at sort of that kit of parts and identify what might be possible there. So we're not losing any steam or any time around getting something better there.
So Kevin, do we have the kit of parts right now? Because that has been, the key hold up to Sarah and her team doing anything. She wanted to make sure she wasn't going to do something and then have to backtrack because it didn't meet the look and feel of what we wanted for that Main Street.
Yeah, I think we're there. I don't think based on the design as we've started to peel everything back, I don't think there's going to be anything really dramatic that happens in front of T-Hop, Country Farm, or Santander from a bump out standpoint. Those are the parking spots we'll need. If we do anything there, it would be set back away from the raised beds. And if we put flowers in there or native bushes, whatever it might be that just, improves that space, it can complement, I think, anything we do for a treatment in front of it at this point, if it's brick inlay or something else.
I think Sarah's designs had seating.
Yes.
and she was waiting on what would be the appropriate look and feel, the color, the metal, the whatever, something that goes with the street lights, or
Okay.
Right. Exactly, like the hardscaping pieces as well.
Okay. Well, maybe we could talk more detail. I think we're in a better place than we were a year ago. We
That's
kind of
super
understand.
exciting, yeah.
So maybe we could talk, take a look and see how far we are. If it's right to do something, or if we need a little bit more time to kind of sketch out some more design. The hardscapes as part of the kit of parts is in there too, but it gives us sort of an array of similar options we could choose. And I'm also looking at a solar bench, which could kind of blow up a little bit of from a design standpoint, what we might do there as well. So let's try to maybe carve out some time and we can talk more about that outside the ECDC. Maybe come back at some point with an update on what that looks like. That's over to you, Sarah.
That would be great.
If I could just make a comment, we're going to have 10 large planters that are going to be put together for town meeting, and the concept is to move them afterwards to someplace on Main Street. And Kim and Kendra have been involved in this. It's kind of important. We're going to have pink overhead flowers. The plants for the planters were selected specifically not to clash with the pink overhead plants, so that those planters are going to have drippy green, white, some blue, and yellow canna growing up in the middle. So if you're thinking about plants, it's important to think, to keep in mind that those planters are going to end up down there somewhere, and that, that things should be coordinated in some way.
Yeah.
Is that something that, Kevin, you're talking with Martha and we'll be talking with Sarah about where those 10 planters are going so that everything is integrated?
So a thought right now that I have is, so we have 10, well, we have more than 10, but we're going to start with 10, 6 of which will be located in the common for town meeting, and 4 of which will be located in the downtown area. What I'm thinking right now at the time of town meeting, and the 4 in the downtown, will put 1 on either side of the parklet, which should be installed tomorrow or the day after in front of Alex's roast beef, which is super exciting. Terrence ran me down on the street the other day when I was walking to ask, what the status was, and he's super excited, and we're just grateful that they want to continue with it, because it was, it's really, I think it's kind of cool. I've ate out there. It's kind of neat. But we'll put a planter on. We've got these concrete bollards that will protect people that sit there from vehicle traffic, and to sort of beautify it, we're going to put planters on either side of that. And so that's 2 of the remaining 4. And then the other 2, my initial feeling is we move those down to at the rail trail, if it makes sense at that intersection, because there's 4 crosswalks, at least 3. And it's a busy intersection with pedestrians and such. So it might make sense to put that there as sort of a marker on one end. And then the other 6 after town meeting will be moved into either some or all will be moved into the remaining areas in the downtown. I'm playing with the concept right now of, do we set up like 3 on one side on the town hall side and 2 on the Veterans Plaza to kind of create off of 97 a little bit of a runway effect, where you can see these large planters with flowers kind of leading into the downtown, and then locating 1 or 2 of those residuals at another bump out or in the downtown as well. Those are just some of the
we also talked about putting them, and I think Kim thought that putting them at in front of the library, and Proctor would be good, because that's the kind of continuation. But I just raised the issue because we don't want to find ourselves with so many different types of plantings that things get confusing.
Yeah. That was the whole reason why we went to VHB in the first place, is because, our group was going to do that little area, or we had made plans to do it outside the bank and Country Farms. And, we all got together and decided really there should be some cohesive plan about, which trees, which plants, what colors, what pavers, and so, I'm definitely on board with that idea of making sure that, everything ties together.
It's good that we're at this point now, because we're coming into the spring, so we want to get moving.
Yeah. And I think I think in my mind, Sarah, we'll take a look at that, maybe pick out what we think might be appropriate, and then see, obviously in the vein of what we always do from collaboration, bring that back to make sure from a planting standpoint, that we're not clashing with anything or repeating something that already exists that might look better if it complements it instead. And I think those bump out or those raised beds are probably more of a permanent, not necessarily a seasonal flower, but something that is a native plant that can, I've got some ideas, some places I've taken pictures of over the last few months too, of ideas of what nice things I've identified as maybe potential solutions for those beds that we could, Sarah, again, we could talk through that. And
Great.
I mean, I'm not a plant expert. I'll never pretend to be. So Martha, I will probably come back to you very quickly thereafter and make sure we're not misstepping.
Well, it's not just me, it's Kendra and Kim. I do raise the regular question. If you put in bushes, shrubs, flowers, whatever it is down there, they are going to need regular maintenance and watering until they're established. And so, that's always the problem.
Yeah. And if I could, just to move things along, because we still have a number of things to cover, this can be taken offline. So you don't need to necessarily come back to us and run everything through the ECDC. You guys can put together what you think, and come back with a recommendation. We don't need to discuss it in detail here, but anybody who is interested in it, reach out to the people that have been talking tonight to give their concepts, and we can finalize it offline. Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay.
Just a couple more last updates real quick. I think I may have mentioned this. I haven't. Let me know, because I'll spend a small extra amount of time on it if I have it. With the Shared Street and Places grant, we're exploring the option of purchasing a solar powered bench or two for the downtown, which are really neat because you can actually plug in to the USB cords to charge your phone or iPad. We could do Wi-Fi from it. So like at the airports, when you go to use the internet there, it comes up with a little video with Hertz Rent-A-Car. We could do something like welcome to Topsfield. There's so many amazing things you can do here, and kind of do a little marketing pitch for people who use our internet downtown, which would be kind of cool. And then we could also, might be an expensive option, but we can also potentially pipe in music into the benches using the solar energy to actually power the music. So we could do through the Wi-Fi, classical music as sort of a background music as people either sit down or approach the bench, or just have it on. So we're looking at that. I went down to Somerville 2 weeks ago, and actually there's one of these benches that exists in the States, and it's in Somerville. So I went and looked at it. It's pretty neat. So we're looking at that as well. Again, grant funded, hopefully, if we're successful in purchasing that. But it's no one else around here that I'm aware of is doing it. So it'd be really neat. I shouldn't say it. Cambridge has some, but Cambridge is always like doing that thing. I can't compete with Cambridge.
Somerville? Where is it in Somerville and Davis?
So it's actually, I think it's closer to Central.
Just if I'm ever down, I'm going to be in Boston next week. I want to go see it.
I could double check. Yeah, I've got so I'll send you the address. It's like on the campus of this startup company that's in this warehouse adjacent to a storage facility, but they're like really cutting edge, and they're experimenting with like using technology around sustainability. And so it's like they purchased one, or they're letting them pilot one there because a lot of similarities of what their business mission is and what the mission of the solar bench people. It's from Poland. So we're just kind of shopping the world at this point for Topsfield, which is kind of neat. But we'll see what happens. We'll be the first one to have one in a town in Massachusetts, at least, from this company. Again, Cambridge has some solar ones, but it's an older technology. It doesn't do all the things I think these benches can do. So that's really exciting. We're going to talk about events as one of the items on the agenda. I talked about Peter Flomp. We're going to do an EV charging station ribbon cutting on the 26th of this month at 4 p.m. I'd love to formally invite you all here tonight at the ECDC, and anyone who's listening at home who would like to participate or come by to check out our new EV charging stations. It's a Monday. It's 4 o'clock towards the end of the day. We'll do a little ribbon cutting. We'll say a few words, and we'll do it very safely, socially distancing. And if we're trying to get whoopee wagon to show up, but no promises, but we're trying. And then last thing I'll mention is we've actually put in through the federal government a request for $1,000 to help us pay for a master plan. So we were unsuccessful last year with an earmark for a master plan. So we put in for that. It's a little bit of a long shot. There's a lot of strings attached. I know that the state this year, talking with our delegation, this is a priority of theirs, the senator and the representative, to help us get funding this year for a master plan. But I just wanted to kind of flag it for everybody and let them know that this is something that's out there. We won't hear for probably months on this one. We applied for it late last week. But we're searching, we're trying. We really want to find those funds to help us with the planning exercise. And a big thank you to Martha for, since I've started here and we started talking about this, her and the planning board have been very supportive of the master plan. It's going to be a huge, huge partnership and collaboration between the town and the planning board and the community to do it and do it right when the time comes. But when it does come, it's going to be really, really impactful and could really transcend some of the things we're trying to do here in a positive way. So another exciting item, big item, and we'll just wait and see how that goes.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. I know you're next for wayfinding, but I'll give you a chance to catch your breath, and we'll jump over to Sarah, who is going to talk about the website development that we talked about before, having a single location to be able to go and get all things Topsfield. So, Sarah, I'll turn it over to you and feel free.
I'm going to be really fast. We had a subcommittee meeting for this a couple of weeks ago that was more organizational. So we talked about the different roles involved in making this happen, like data gatherers, finding all the existing information that already exists, whether it's business info, images, historic, all that, writers, editors, and then, the people that actually create the website. We also brainstormed content categories. And, we decided for now, I am going to take the role of creating a massive outline that just kind of puts everything that we can think of in one place. And then, I have some ideas for people that are pretty good at, driving or placing the content in the right place on a website in order to get help people find their way. Just overall, the goal of this website for anyone who's listening is to capture additional economic activity from those people that visit Topsfield already. We have all these event venues. People come to a town for a wedding. They want to know while they're here, what else can they do? Where can they shop? Where can they get a bite to eat? The idea is to have a centralized place where they can, as a visitor, find information on how to fill their day, and for us to capture that additional economic activity. So quickly, I'm going to share screen because I was looking at the town of Gloucester's website, and I think it's a really good model for how we could do it and tie it into the town's website. So hang on one second. I'm going to do this. So this is Gloucester's homepage. So you can see along the top, they have like the different subcategories, and they have visitors right on there. And then when you click visitors, they have, some major categories. This one here, Discover Gloucester. This is a lot like, I think, what we want to do. At the top, they have play, they have museums, arts and entertainment, sports and recreation, all these festivals. They have, stay. We don't really have that category in Topsfield. Dine, events. So we think, events will be a big part of what we want to highlight. They have the See Who's Open, which is just for COVID list of all their different shops and anyway, and they've got, I love the beautiful photography, and a blog we talked about, do we want to do a blog? I it's possible. But anyway, I just thought this was like a really good example of what we might want to do. So that's where we're at. We're in the, I can share my outline, but it's probably not there yet for everyone. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I can stop this.
Sarah, I love this. If you go back one, this was exactly, what we were talking about, the link to the government.
Yeah.
And then the 3 categories. What would you do if you were a resident? Like, why would people come and live here? All the things that residents could do. Talk about our businesses, give them a place to showcase what's here.
I know you guys are developing the town website too, but I thought that this was just really easy and really clear. And bidding opportunities, building department, business resources. This is under the businesses. So just really, hang on a second. Hey, Dylan. Hold on a second. They're sorry.
That's okay, Sarah.
Sarah,
So, do you need any additional help? You know, we talked about it's a very large undertaking, all the data gathering, reaching out to people, whether it's our businesses or people who already have content or already have pictures, beautiful pictures like Kendra and the Topsfield Gardening Club. So do you need anybody? Do we need to reach out to others?
Hold on. This is what I've got started so far, just so you can see. I don't think so. Like, I think there's a lot of just data gathering that I can do on my end before we get it into the, placing it on a website. But, these aren't the headings that we'll use necessarily, but these are the categories that we talked about in our meeting. And, events, I'm just going to go to that nice document Zilly put together and populate this. So, this is, we thought, that we should highlight agriculture, farm, vineyards, that kind of thing is a big part of Topsfield, that in our history. But no, I think we're good. I think there's plenty that I can just move forward with on my own. And my plan is, with this outline to then with each line item, add the detail and the content, so it's all here in one place for whenever we get to that building the website.
This is great, Sarah. Could you share this with the whole team? So if for some reason we overlooked something and someone else has a good idea to add to this outline?
To the ECDC?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. So that's my update.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Lynn, and Sarah, and it's a wonderful list, but I think all of us could probably have some input into that just with our knowledge and, history of what we know. So I think it would all be a positive to, let us have a little bit of input through you. I don't know how you would want to do it, but
maybe I'll make a shared Google document and people can go in there and just add to it. I did it in Word just because I'm not sure how Google Docs outlining how good that is, but I feel like in general, all the Google suite has gotten so much better that I could probably just move it over into that.
Mm-hmm. And I just have one question. The Gloucester website that you showed, was that a Chamber of Commerce generated website, or was that the town, the city of Gloucester, or who put that together?
Hold on, let's see if we can find out.
I think it's the town.
I think I already did. It's the town,
It is
the city of Gloucester.
City of Gloucester.
Yeah.
So that's
This is the official Gloucester website.
okay. So that's their website. All right.
For this Discover piece too?
This looks separate. Discover Gloucester looks separate. Looks like what you are.
Web address.
Marketing organization. So
Yeah.
Nonprofit what organization?
It's right here. It says it's a nonprofit destination marketing organization, DMO, which I'm not familiar with that acronym. So this looks like it's really similar to kind of what we're talking about, which is our nonprofit developing this website.
Right.
Totally.
That's what I'm wondering about, how this is all going to connect. I mean, if not to have cross purposes, I'm sure we're all on the same page, but to be developing a town website, and then Sarah, your group developing this wonderful kind of website, it seems like it needs to mesh somehow. Either one or the other does it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, there's an absolute place for this on our website, right? So it's either a landing page that the town has, it's, economic development or for businesses. Maybe there's a button that says how to get a permit. Maybe there's a button that says, community partnership. You click on that, or whatever it might be. Or it's the landing page itself, could be what Sarah's putting together. But I think that because we don't have the economic development planner or the capacity to have somebody really create and maintain the page, this is a perfect sort of mesh on what the town's doing right now. And we can easily link to it or just have it as a landing page. And Sarah, we can talk more about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Gloucester, they have this category visitors, and then through that they're linking to other websites. Like they link to the library, Cape Ann Museum, this Cape Ann Vacations, which is another private, separate initiative.
Wow.
This is for Essex, Gloucester, the whole Cape Ann. So I don't know. I think that's pretty. I feel like it would be okay to have it be a separate go-to, but
you won't be duplicating.
No, this is not something the town's going to be doing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you can find it easily from the town. But that way the town doesn't become the town's burden.
Yeah.
And also not just burden, but I'm also thinking approvals and things. So the town is sending people to other privately managed websites.
Yeah.
So every time you want to make a change to the town website, there's a process. You can't just throw whatever you want on there. And not that they would be linking to reputable organizations like this one, like they're doing. But, Discover Gloucester can kind of fiddle around and play and doesn't have to go through approval processes.
Yeah.
And we would have a disclaimer that they're leaving the site or something like that.
Yeah. I don't mean to imply. Yeah. I guess I'm just saying it's both. It's sort of it's giving people an avenue. It's the directional sign. The town's giving you a directional sign to these other websites. They are not the town's, like you said.
It's a valid point, Janet. And we went to Kevin to say, what is it you're putting on your website? And what is it we're thinking about on the other piece? And so that there wasn't an overlap. And like, you guys are ahead of us. So go ahead and develop that visitor piece, because we're not going to be talking about the farms in town and recreational activities that are outside of what the town is doing. So it would be a link. But we did need to go and talk to Kevin to make sure we weren't being redundant or duplicative.
And the long-term plan will have the economic development planner have a page, a landing page, and linking off of that to TCP's page. I think that's the goal, right? Yeah. So, but we're not there yet. So with the great work that Sarah and everybody else is doing, we're going to definitely leverage that and put it on our site if we can. So that's great.
You can only say it's great work when we actually have a website.
That outline was
the outline looks great.
It's a great start. Super. Any other comments or feedback to Sarah? She'll send out that document or the link to Google, whichever you want to do, Sarah. Okay, super. Let me again give Kevin another moment. And we'll go to the town common activities. So Kathleen Hunt is on the line, Kathleen, can you hear us just to talk for a minute about what you were doing with the concert on the Common in August? She might have stepped away for a minute. Okay, we'll come back to Kathleen. And I forget now, was I going to Martha or Kim or Kendra for the Great Tomato Festival?
It's Kim's idea.
Okay.
You take it, Martha.
Well, all credit is due to Kim. I mean, she has been talking about a tomato festival for years. And so we've talked about it. In theory, it would take place on September 12th, which is a Sunday, from 11 to 3 or 12 to 3, whatever the hours are. There'd be a farmer's market, there'd be games, there'd be music, all kinds of things. There's one famous tomato festival in Nashville that's the Tomato Art Fest, and that they also have an art show associated with it, that all the artwork has to have tomatoes in it, which is kind of fun. But anyway, so we've been throwing around these ideas. The issues are, number one, whether we can even do this year. I know Boxford has not decided whether they can do their Apple Festival, which would be the next weekend. And so it's not even clear that we could do this during, this COVID year. Second issue is that this is going to take a lot of people to organize and to make it happen. I mean, just thinking of getting all the tomatoes that you need for the tomato toss game. I mean, so there are going to have to be groups of people who are going to take on responsibility for the various components of the festival. We were going to invite all of the pizza places in town to sell their pizza or something else. We're going to invite basically all of the food people. What am I missing? Kendra, what have I forgotten?
There's an educational component.
Oh, right, the educational component. Kendra, do you want to say something about that?
Just that, the opportunity to have different organizations come to speak or to set up and reach out, like Nourishing the North Shore.
That one was really fun. Kendra mentioned that one. There is someone there who talks about 10 ways to preserve tomatoes. Yeah. So you know how at the end of the summer, you've got like 1,000 tomatoes and you can't possibly eat as many tomatoes. So she had that contact. And then tomatoes around the world, recipes that people use across the world using tomatoes. So it's kind of a neat twist.
Yeah, and if that dovetails with the chef component as well, I think that Martha had suggested. So,
yeah, Chefs of the North Shore, Chris Gallagher, Martha had brought up, so we could just see if there's any interest there. The games, Martha already reached out to Yvonne at Joyful Noises, and she was going to come up with ideas that are age appropriate, like toss the tomato. There's the Trey Boucher.
The catapult, the tomato catapult.
It's like STEM. It's like physics. How do you design something for the kids, and how far can you actually throw the tomato? So it's kind of a cool idea. So there's a lot of components. You could sell the food, as Martha said, like a farmer's market. We could have food there. Everything's centered around tomatoes, and a tasting contest for juniors, adults. So it could be salsa, chili, tomato sauce, and then an appearance contest, again, like juniors, adults, and professional, best looking, ugliest, biggest, tiniest, with ribbons for the kids. So there were so many ideas that came out of Kim's concept that then Martha and Kendra added to. It's so fun, and people are missing festivals. We didn't have our strawberry festival. There hasn't been a time to get together. So this would be, as Martha said, like at the 12th of September. Hopefully by then we'd have more openings. People are getting the shots. They feel more comfortable to come out. And it'd be right on the common, and we'd have some music in the background. So throwing it out there to see what everybody thinks about the Great Tomato Festival.
I really want to build a catapult.
I think it sounds wonderful. But again, as Martha says, it will take a legion of people. I mean, we would really have to recruit, from greater than this group to be involved.
Yeah, they don't have enough people helping with the Strawberry Festival.
Yeah.
We really don't. I mean, it's every year it's a scramble to find volunteers for the Strawberry Festival. So it's hard to ask people to do stuff for free.
Yeah.
They work all day and they don't get to enjoy it. So it's difficult.
Well, we know how many people it takes and how long it takes to prepare for the expo. And with the expo, we're kind of fortunate because the vendors and the exhibitors simply come and set everything up. They set up their own tables and their own booths and all of that. This is rather different. The farmers market people will come with their tables and their tents and their food and all of that. But if we're talking about entertainment, if we're talking about running contests, that is going to take a significant amount of organization, and we need a lot more people than what we have.
Can I ask a question? Are you guys imagining this more like a bringing something to attract people into Topsfield, or are you envisioning this more as a community event for residents?
I think it would be both. I would see it as both. Again, on the model of the expo, Topsfield residents come, a lot of them participate, but we get people from all over the North Shore who come to that. And if it's advertised, people will come. And one of the concepts of having events on the common is to introduce people to Topsfield, and to get them to come. But again, I mean, I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it could be so much fun. But we're going to have, as Janet says, a legion, an army of people participating and helping.
My thought, Zilly, was more focused on the community. I think it's it could grow, to Martha's point, and it could attract people from outside the community. I think the community needs a little getting together and healing and good old fashioned fun, and bring your tomatoes that you grew in the garden. Martha had pointed out they do the 5th grade tomato day, and it's like, have the kids bring their tomatoes. Just come down to the common, and you're going to walk by the judges and show us your tomato, and someone's going to say, that's the ugliest. You win. Here's your ribbon. I just kind of like the old fashioned community is how I envisioned it, just to Martha's point, because if you really ramp this up to make it super professional, it's going to take an army. But Kathleen has bands that could be playing music in the background. We have Yvonne, who has some ideas for the games. We get some moms who will kind of oversee kids tossing tomatoes to each other. You get some posters of tomato art, and you put them up and around, and the vendors come and set up their own tables, have the pizza places come and sell theirs. We could make this not super professional, just kind of like a fun Topsfield event where it doesn't take quite as much. I don't want to minimize it, but.
Well, that's the reason I asked, is because it's like a different, almost like event genre, because I'm thinking about events like the Topsfield Town Library summer kickoff, like summer reading kickoff event. It's a very community, it's small, but it's what you're kind of describing as a potential introduction of an event like this. To me, the idea of trying to make something that already sounds like the Strawberry Festival feels overwhelming when we can't even staff the Strawberry Festival.
The Strawberry Festival is, it's not super, it brings a lot of people to town, but it doesn't do a lot for the businesses in town. Yeah. And it's, a lot of them, unless we're very particular about what vendors can be there and even limit the food sources. So it's been a little limiting in the past few years. So I'd love to see it be the pizza places, or even, the bagel bin or whatever they can come up with for a tomato thing, like make it more about Topsfield businesses than the Strawberry Festival is more. Most of our vendors are outside vendors, and it doesn't do anything except for cause a ton of traffic in town. And, you know, unless you live in this town and are somebody who does crafts and stuff, it doesn't really benefit at all for the town. Small permit fees, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, the concept here was to engage as many of our food people in town as possible.
Yeah, I love that.
And even offer, I know, I mean, there are all different kinds of pizza that are available in town, but they also do other things. I know when we did the town hall opening, Alex's did these wonderful little spinach thingies, you know, appetizers. They were delicious. And I'm sure that the bagel bin could come up with something. And
they have to have tomatoes, though.
They can do omelets.
And then, of course, the bake shop, the Topsfield Bake Shop.
Tomato would be nice.
That she's doing a deep dish pizza. So I think it really would be up to them. And we say it's really tomatoes, come up with something that has something to do with tomatoes, even if it's spinach balls with tomato sauce on them. I don't know, you know, whatever would work. So that was the concept. And I know when we do the expo, we invite all of the downtown businesses to come and set up if they want to, you know, and they do. I mean, quite a few of them do. But anyway, these are the thoughts. But the first thing that we need to figure out is, can we round up enough people to even pull off a modest version of this? And
so that was the other reason I asked the question was because my experience with Earth Day is totally very, I don't want to, how do I phrase it? It's engaging existing groups that are looking for something like this to do, where like a Girl Scout group, or in this case, I'm thinking, like you said, the students have the Proctor plant, the tomato day and the garden things. You know, there might be student clubs and then garden clubs, and anybody who might naturally say, oh, I would sign up to be in charge of a game station. And then you have them, a sports team. That's kind of how that's how I made Earth Day happen. I found like pockets of people who I was like, well, you do one. And then they did it. And then it happened. Then suddenly there was a big community event, but you couldn't point to any one person, maybe besides me, that was like managing the whole thing, because everyone just brought it, set it up, did it, took it away.
Yeah. And that's what we
experience was whole. So
And
this to me sounds like it lets
everybody.
Yeah, Lily, you bring up a very good point, and I think someone mentioned this along the way. The Masco sports teams set up, or one team sets up at the Strawberry Festival every year, and they run games. Now,
They make money. As long as you tell them that they can make money or charge for the games, they will show up anywhere. That's the boosters. They run that. They need that. Yeah.
And if they wouldn't mind using their beanbag toss stuff for a tomato toss, I mean, but that's a group that I think, you know, they charge whatever they charge, and it's a fun event, and they just handle it.
I think, you know, if it's not super professional, it's more, oh my gosh, look what they did with a theme of a tomato, and all these different groups from the town coming together. And it's like, that's just funny. Oh my gosh, I'm going to the next station to find out what the heck they did with their tomatoes, or what they're offering. That, you know, I just think this would be fun, that people might really enjoy being a part of it. It wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, you're asking me to do something else. It's like, let's put on our thinking caps. This could be hysterical.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be super big the first year. Like, you just start it in the community, and then it's got almost like a soft open. You let it grow, and then it'll grow kind of organically over the next year. And then once you have like your people in place and your stations in place, then you can kind of promote it more to bring people outside from in.
I totally agree with that.
Tentative date again?
September 12th.
I was going to say, I also love that timing because everyone's coming back off of summer if they have school age people in their home.
And it's before the fair.
And it's before the fair. So it feels like a good time for the community to be like, hey, like everyone's going to be catching up.
It's like, yeah.
Again, we're going to have to think COVID too. So
Strawberry Festival is already canceled for the year. So maybe they really will want to do something in September.
Yeah.
Well, the question is whether we'll be able to, whether we'll be at a point, or say a safe point then. And Kevin, maybe you can keep monitoring Boxford, and what they're doing with the Apple Festival.
Yeah, we checked with them because the date that we wanted to do was September 18th at first. And then after all the discussion about what would be the perfect day when the tomatoes are ripe and people are back, to school, we find out it's the Apple Festival. And we're like, oh my gosh. And then we find out Boxford hasn't made a decision whether they're going to do it. But we said, well, we'll just leave it free for them. How about the previous weekend? And that was 9/11, the 20th anniversary. So we're like, okay, we probably don't want to touch that. That's too emotional. So let's do the 12th instead. And it seemed like maybe a lazy Sunday. Saturday might be busy with all sports. Maybe Sunday's a little slower and it might be a fun family day. And to your point, Martha, if it doesn't, like if for some reason COVID doesn't let us go forward, if every group has kind of planned their own thing, and maybe it's not a huge investment for them. The high school kids don't come and they don't run the games. Okay. The vendor, the farms don't come and sell their things here. They'll just sell them at the farm. The band won't come. It'll be delayed, but it won't be a huge investment where we're, 10,000 deep and then we can't have the event.
Right, exactly. The other thing that if we're starting to line up the various competitions, we need to check with the Board of Health as to any requirements that they have. I mean, if we're having a salsa competition or a tomato sauce competition, whatever it is, we need to get the Board of Health rules and regs. And of course, they also do have to do something with the farmers market if there are people who are not from Topsfield. If we have local farms, from other communities, then they get involved. So that's another whole area that we're going to have to explore.
We actually, I talked with Kevin, and maybe Kevin, you can speak to this. He's got a project team that reviews everything that's coming up next week. Is it, or this week?
Thursday. Yeah. So we have a project review team for any type of project. We've talked about this. It's for mom and pop shops that are open up 500 square foot new business in town, or a 200 unit building. Not that that's happening, but, and everything in between. And so with regards to this, it felt right that we discussed the project through a project review team to make sure, as we start early on in the process, understanding what our own restrictions we will have to play by if we move something like this forward. So that, as well as the concept that we talked about, Lynn, about the farmers market. We'll discuss those two concepts as well. And then last night we had a good lengthy conversation with Kathleen about the concerts and what might be available.
I'm here, by the way. I'm here. I apologize. I couldn't find the unmute button.
Oh, that's okay. We'll turn it to you in a minute, Kathleen, to talk about the concert.
So Thursday we'll have that meeting and we'll get some better ideas of what what restrictions there are or requirements. And then to, I think, what everybody's point, it's just what people power we have to kind of pull something together.
So there's a 2-page summary that I'll send out to everybody that this was the group brainstorming and some of the logistics issues and how to advertise and that kind of thing. This is what we'll review with Kevin on Thursday to see if there are any showstoppers relative to what Martha had mentioned about the Board of Health or the police closing off the street and having the ambulance. And I think Martha said maybe we even have, if it's possible, Jen bring Smokey Bear.
If she can convince Smokey to come, he lives up at Bradley Palmer, I believe. He's
going to have to come with a tomato or something. I'm not sure what the tomato tie-in is, but
Kevin, the issue for your project team is the permitting, Board of Health permitting relative to farmers markets. There's some new, or it was new a couple of years ago. There were some changes, and it's a matter of concern, because if we find ourselves, up to our ears in permitting fees and, permitting, it can create a problem.
So, Board of Health is part of the project review team, so Wendy will be there. And I have actually spoken with Jamie O'Brien, because out of the fairgrounds is sort of the regional coordinator for farmers markets. A good friend of mine, a contact who runs the Beverly Farmers Market. I've been in contact with Estelle as well about the concept, just to say at a high level, are we out of our minds? If we're going to be able to pull something like this off? And she thought the Common, she's very familiar with Topsfield. She said the Common's a great location with we get 41 or 46,000 vehicles a week on 91 that go right by Town Hall and up 97 on High Street. So we have a ton of traffic that comes downtown, at least to the edge of the downtown, which we'll be able to leverage for if it's a farmer's market, if it's a tomato festival, if it's anything in between. Speaking to the choir, you all know that. You've done the Strawberry Fest, you know what it means and the impacts of where it's located. But yeah, we'll certainly make sure that all the right players, regardless of what type of event we want to pull, we'll have a good understanding of what the restrictions are and the requirements and the permit fees.
So I'll send this document to everybody, and then after Thursday's meeting, if we don't have any big showstoppers, we'll send out a summary of that meeting to you and see if we can start to think of some people who might be interested in participating in that, or groups that we talked about. So, okay, so let me just turn it over to Kathleen for a moment, just so she can talk about the concert on the Common. She applied for a grant and got it, and she's got some other bands lined up. So Kathleen?
Okay, I want to make sure that this isn't seen as a competition of festivals. Basically, what the Cultural Council talked about was we were unable in the past couple of years to totally fund the concerts on the Green, which are very, very popular. So in talking with Kevin and Lynn, I said, maybe what we could do is have 4 or 5 bands play on a Saturday when the businesses are open, so we could incorporate something with them. We could have outside vendors come, have activities going on while the music is playing on the Green. Traditionally when people come to concerts on the Green, they bring their chairs and their blankets and their children. And so we thought we should make this a family affair. So as somebody has already mentioned, the thought in some cases is overwhelming, because you do have to identify and ensure that you will have enough volunteers. I have the bands in place. I had one band that is unable to perform, but I was very fortunate. I got a hold of another band. So we're in our very early stages. I did talk to the Council on Aging. And one of the things that they will be doing during this music festival is they will be selling very cheaply ice cream. And one of the concerns that Kathleen Barbarisi said was, we have to make sure that, as Martha indicated, that we're in line with the requirements of the health department. But I will be meeting with the COA, with the library, and where I see I need help is that I would love to do maybe a raffle with businesses so we could promote our businesses. We intentionally chose a Saturday. Unfortunately, it's very close to when the Tomato Festival occurs. We are talking about the 21st. I believe that's the 3rd Saturday in August for the event. So I'm concerned because I know, as everybody said, volunteers don't want to participate in numerous festivals. But I did see a large difference between our two activities, because I really thought the idea of the Tomato Festival was wonderful in terms of a community project, that it could just be fun. I don't think it has to be a duplication of what we do at the music festival at all. The grant was written that the Cultural Council would coordinate this, and we would work in conjunction with the town, the various departments, with the business community. And I threw in ECDC. So we're in the very, very early stages. And as Martha indicated, it's all based on the presumption that by August, we will be able to interact more easily and there'll be less restrictions, but there's no guarantee. If we are unable to finalize preparations for the concert, then we can return the money. So, and the Massachusetts Cultural Council is very understanding. They encouraged us to try to plan for something and see if it really happens. So I will be coming back to the Board of Select and you guys in about a month after I meet with my team and then meet with Kevin and his group, and we'll see what we can iron out and what we can come up with. So we have a tentative plan so that we can move forward and develop the specifics.
Kathleen, could I ask you, was August 21st for any particular reason as opposed to like something earlier in August?
Yeah. Initially, we thought the first week in August, but I had spoke to someone in the governor's office and they said, if I were you, I would plan towards the end of August. The grant award requires that we have the festival by August 31st. Schools open the end of August. So we wanted to have it the week before parents had to worry about getting school clothes, books, etc.
Okay. And the same thought I would say as with the Tomato Festival, if there are a number of bands, if there's ice cream and there's a couple of games, people are thrilled. It doesn't have to be.
Well, I think it's going to be much. I think it's going to be much larger than I have indicated. The Council on Aging wants to set up an entire area. I don't know if it can access the War Memorial or not. Laura's talking about outside activities outside the library. We're hoping that food vendors we're going to coordinate the whole thing and it'll be mapped out. But right at the moment, I'm just speculating and I don't want to make it sound like they're concrete commitments because they're not. But I think it's going to be much larger than the Topsfield community. Because this is kind of the first round of festivals. And other towns are planning on festivals at the end of August. So I think this will be a big deal.
Okay. I mean, it sounds great. I only raised that to say, don't worry if you can't get all these people that you envision to help out. Because I think even if it were a fraction of what you're envisioning, I think people would love it just being out in the warm weather, listening to music and gathering. So, shoot for the moon for sure. And in the same concept of if the COA is going to do their own thing, that's not you. The library's doing their own thing. That's not you. They'll each get their own.
I'm very lucky. I have one of our members of the Cultural Council is a student. And so we envision one of the requirements by the Massachusetts Cultural Council is to find a way to block off entrances so the town, people walk through the town, and they want tables so that we as a community can gather information about who came, where did they live, that type of thing, so that we have future marketing information. And my young student at Masco is going to have fellow students man those tables, which I think will be really, really helpful because I find the students at Masco to be so incredibly polite. And I think that will be fun for them too.
So you're envisioning tables being throughout the town? Is this not just on the common?
Right. We're hoping that we can convince Kevin, to block off the street so that it's only foot traffic.
Is this it's a free concert?
Yes.
It sounds amazing. And,
Yeah, I agree.
Kathleen, you can put my name down as a volunteer.
Oh, you're so sweet. I think I'll be kidding you all up next time I talk to you, but I'm kind of excited because I think this is really what Topsfield needs to do. I think it's going to, I think it's going to be relaxing, and I think that I think people from Boxford and Middleton will easily come. I'm not even concerned about that. And I think the more, I think if I serve just as a coordinator as opposed to trying to do everything myself, I think that's going to be much more effective.
Great. Any other questions or at this point for Kathleen? All right, super. Thank you so much, Kathleen, and congratulations on your grant.
Thank you. You all have been wonderful anyways. I'm so glad I got to meet all of you.
Thank you. All right, so the last item on the list, and I don't think it's extensive because it's 8:20, but the wayfinding signage, Kevin, if you can just update us again on what's happened and then what might be coming to the ECDC, what you need from us and when.
So we're doing it. We're excited. On Loop's on board. And I need 2 people from this group, if they're willing to participate in a little bit of a steering committee when it comes to the wayfinding signage. The way we'll work with the consultant is I'll have a weekly call with the consultant and then bring information back to this sort of working group. Time commitment to do so would be sort of ad hoc when we get to certain points with design that we need to get and flesh out, decisions. Other members will be a couple of business members. I talked to Tom at Fresh Designs. He's going to step up and be a part of it. The working group, or steering committee, however you want to call it. But, I'm envisioning, multiple people from the community, the business owners. It's really important that we get the signage so it meets what their expectations are. But you folks are so involved, so passionate, so amazing. I'd really be great to have some additional input. And then more broadly speaking, if you're not somebody in this group who's willing and able to help participate in that steering committee, I do plan to bring at certain points some of the design as we work through from now and through the end of June, which is the timeline we've set up for this design. Just really broadly, we're looking at signage on Route 1 that directs people to the downtown village. That's sort of the term we've floated around and coined. We talked about town center, we talked about a lot of different concepts, but the downtown gives you sort of a flair that there's something happening, and the village then brings it down to a scale that's right for Topsfield. So that was sort of why we sort of landed on those 2 words together. But if someone else has a better idea, not wed to it, there might be some very long-standing reference to what the downtown that we want to, what it's called, and keeping it consistent. That's fine too. But those are some of the things that we're working through right now, and that steering committee can help us with some of that, fleshing out some of those details.
Kevin, do you want people to email you if they're interested? How should they get in touch with you?
However it works best. Like I said, I'm looking for probably 2, maybe 3 members from this group. So I don't know if there's even an appetite. If I have more than, say, 2 or 3 people, then I don't know, maybe it's the first come, first serve. Or
that's the only reason I said if someone emails you, because if someone needs just to think about it for a minute instead of getting all the slots filled right now, because I think a number of people might be excited about it, but just to let some people give it some thought.
Sure. Yeah, no, that sounds fine. And I'm looking for the next week or so to probably put the final roster together. I have a meeting with Brian tomorrow, and he might be sharing some interesting things that we can start actually exploring together. So my hope is within the next week to kind of finalize everything.
Mm-hmm.
From a working group.
Do you have an estimation on time commitment, what it entails?
It's a great question, and I'm sort of struggling with it. I don't want to have a fixed meeting like on a weekly basis or every other week because we might not have anything to talk about. So my hope is get my regular Wednesday morning meeting with Brian, get to a point, say, what do you need for feedback? Say, okay, I'm going to take this back to the group, and then maybe a meeting, maybe early the following week before I meet with Brian again on that following Wednesday so I can provide feedback. Maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on what we're covering. And it's really ad hoc. And if you can make it, great. If you can't, and there's another commitment, that's okay. But like I said, I feel it's really important that this is a collaborative effort because these are going to be something that signage really is it's who we are at the end of the day. It really signifies, what we want to sort of stand for. It's an image, and we want to make sure we're branding ourselves in the right way. And the more input, thoughtful people like yourselves, absolutely the better. And I'm very much welcome and ask for that support. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree, Kevin. I think you do need, a multitude of eyes on these signs. I mean, because that's what people are going to see. And that's what we're kind of rebranding ourselves. And so the more that you can share what you're working on with Brian would be really good. I mean, not only with just this committee, but with, as many as you can. I mean, but I think Kim would be excellent for this committee because she's shaking her head. She's a design person, and Kendra, they have eyes for this kind of stuff. I'm interested because I would like to facilitate stuff, but I'm not as creative as these other two individuals. So, Kendra and Kim, I hope, might step up.
And there certainly is some overlap with the historic district, right? And so I do actually, another member of the group I'm looking to have on would be somebody from historic. I've reached out to Liz asking if she could identify somebody who might be interested in joining the group. I don't think I have to check my email, but I don't think I've received an email back on that quite yet. But I think I might have said at the end of last week. So,
Kendra,
anyway.
Can I just ask, Kendra, are you with the historical?
Yeah, and I replied to Liz, but she's got goats on her mind.
Okay, because technically Kendra's not on the ECDC, but she is on historical.
Yeah. Well, Kendra, I'd love to if you talk to Liz and them, I
think she just didn't forward that.
Then that's great. I welcome. That's fantastic. It'd be great to have you on board. So thank you.
So, Kim.
So anyone else on the ECDC, if you want to email me with any interest.
Look at Janet.
Come on, Kim.
Did you see Kim's new built-in closet? It's amazing. She's got a great taste.
Isn't that great?
All right. So thank you, Kevin, for that. And anybody, expressing interest, just get back to Kevin, Kim, to see if you're interested in participating. Okay.
Or if you have anybody you think would be really super outside this group, that someone from the community, a business owner, feel free to pass along their name and I can reach out.
Yeah. Kendra, are you doing it? Are you going to be doing this?
I was going to be a liaison from the Historical Society or the Commission.
Liaison. Okay. We'll talk offline.
Okay, great. All right, so that is everything on our sheet. Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up?
I have one quick question, a follow-up to when we were talking about the outline that I put together and sharing it. It occurred to me, is it okay to do a shared Google document with open meeting law? Like, are we allowed to collaborate on a document like that? Or
yes,
one person in it at a time, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm sure it's been something posed to the state on ethics and open meeting and all that. Or open meeting, not ethics. But what we typically have done from the select board is centralized comments. So if I'll send a document out and I'll say, please provide comments individually back to me, and then I can pull it all together into one document. And that way there's no discussion taking place. And as not a member of the select board, there's no violation for me from gathering that input on an individual basis on any document. So
Does it need to go through you, Kevin, or can it go through Sarah? Because she's actually doing this with her TCP hat on.
100% Sarah can do that. Yeah.
So I send it out and then people can email me individually, but as long as they don't reply to all to something, right?
Right.
It's BCC. I always recommend people when you're emailing a committee to BCC everybody. Send it to yourself or to somebody, one individual, then BCC, and that way there's no chance anyone can reply all.
Okay.
I had never thought of that's a good idea. I always have to be like, make sure you don't reply all, like all caps at the end of an email.
The only bad thing, Zilly, is when you go back to try to get that email later to reply all to them, so you can just easily email and channel them back in one individually.
Then you have to do it all over again.
Right.
That's probably safer too, Sarah, so that everybody's not changing the Google document. If you really kind of had some thought put into this, and then suddenly it's all 6 different ideas coming and changing everything around. So it lets you think about it before you make the changes. Okay, good point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay, great. Thank you. Janet, you're on mute.
She's moving to adjourn, I think. Yes, I'll take it for you. I'll move.
And move to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, wait a minute. I have to write this down. So it's Janet and Zilly. Okay. All right, roll call. Kim?
Aye.
Zilly?
Aye.
Rosalie?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Lynn is an aye, so it's unanimous. I didn't think we'd get any fight on that one. All right, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.